Let's kick it off. This is exciting. Chris, it is probably the biggest honor to have you. I mean, I don't think I could be where I am today without having the ability to cross paths with you. So I'm excited to have you on the podcast today, highlighting Ella. This is going to be very, very exciting. When I saw you release this new company and
Hmm.
launch it, I was just this is a great thing for the industry.
Yeah,
So I want to kick off here, man. I want to first introduce yourself.
sure.
I'm sure most people in the industry know who you are at this point, but for those
Hmm.
that don't, let them know who you are. I had the great experience of working with Chris at his company Curaytor, but I'm going to let him kind of give a self
Yeah,
introduction here.
please allow me to reintroduce myself. um, yeah, man, I've been doing this a long time now. I'm still fairly young as far as industry standards go. I started blogging and doing videos before 2010. So, really, before anybody was, messing with social. And at the time in the industry, a lot of the coaches were basically calling it a distraction and, kind of get back to work. And I was just young and naive and I was just excited about technology. I mean, how do you not? Like, when we worked with Lauren, she used to always
Yes.
say,
Yep.
Lauren McCleary, we'll give her a shout out. She used to always just say, what a time to be alive. And like, I believe that. Like, I was in my mid to late 20s. I was traveling, so I had a bunch of time on my hands. And so all I did, for people that want to know, is I had a product that I sold called Top Producer. This was the follow-up boss of its day. It was, the one that 90% of realtors had. And it was, when I got hired, it was called 8i. And that was like literally like version 8. And then the I was for internet. So it was at this time where version 7 was like a disk that you loaded on your hard drive. And then version 8 was the first web-based version. And so for me, like, I was looking at the hard drive version, like, oh my God, that sucks. But there were some advantages to it running locally on your computer. Like, it never changed. So you can kind of like get used to it. And it would, run really fast. And so while I was like brought onto the company with version 8, I realized very quickly when I started going to the offices and started doing the hotel trainings that, like, oh crap, people hate version 8. And it was because it was so different being in the browser versus being on the hard drive. And most of the people that I was presenting for already had it, but we had a really good upsell called Market Snapshot, which is still a great, like, kind of like fellow before
Okay.
fellow. It's just a beautiful map and it's got all the comps near your home and kind of breaks down the trends in a neighborhood. And so really what I would do is I would go in and have to really like get them to kind of like come over to my side of the table on the CRM. And by the time the training was over, they loved it. Like, they saw the light, like, oh wow, this is unbelievable. Even little stuff, Austin, like right click new tab, the ability to have an email you're working on open and a contact profile and
So
the
simple, but
dashboard with your tasks. Yeah, little stuff. And so I would, train them up, they'd be pumped. And then obviously if people like you, then they're going to hear you out for the sales pitch for the upgrade. But there was a 30-day, like, as the sales guy, it was a 30-day money back guarantee before a 12-month commitment kicked in. And so if they canceled in the first 30 days, they would take it out of my commission and I wouldn't get paid. So I was trying to bridge the gap where, I would sell it to them, but I would come back within the 30 days and do a training for everyone that bought it right then, or I would do a go to meeting, which is kind of dating myself, but it was like a go to webinar,
yep.
and I'd connect to their screen and take it over and help them set it up and help them get it going. And it was just purely because I wanted to keep my commission. And the thing about Market Snapshot that was so perfect for that moment in time was that it was really perfect as like a deliverable that you could share on social, through email. And so I started like, hey, if I, here's what I would do. I'd, create one for a neighborhood and then do a screenshot and then post that on Facebook and ask your friends if they'd like one of these for their home. And there would be like, what is Facebook? Like, like, how does that work? Like, I've never posted, I have an account, but I've never posted stuff like that.
Crazy.
So and then I was showing them how to do like a screen recording and talk about the report and then put that on YouTube. And they were using AOL, they were using Blackberries, they were using Internet Explorer, they were using, big clunky, Dell PCs. So it was just this era where I knew where the puck was headed and I knew I was right. And I was able to become tech savvy agent. That was my moniker. And the blog blew up, the Facebook page blew up. I started winning all these awards. I was named most influential person in the industry, number one blog in the industry. Because of that, because I was getting like tons of traffic to my site and my social media following was blowing up. And so Inman News recognized that and basically hired me and said, hey, we want you to be the chief evangelist for the whole industry, not just for one company, top producer owned by realtor.com. So there were some limitations on what I could talk about. I couldn't promote Zillow or Trulia. I couldn't
Mm.
promote, competing products. So there's only so much I could teach people. But there were so many technologies. Like I think about Hootsuite and Dropbox, and I think about some of these like, Dot Loop, some of these tools that were like, I was just excited about how cool they were. I didn't even work for the companies. Like my session at Inman was like 10 mobile apps that you have to have, and how amazing they were. And there was one called Open House Pro. It's like a iPad app for people to sign in at open houses. And I helped that kid get tens of thousands of downloads because every time I do a conference, the whole audience would download these apps. And so I just made my name on like practical, tactical advice. And the industry was, sadly, because I had to go to, I've been to over 1,000 conferences. Most of the other speakers and sessions were terrible. They were like super high level, not very practical, 30,000 foot view. And so I think people like, they would take notes during my study, they'd take pages worth of notes. And then there were times where they'd come up to me and say, like, I'm so glad you were here. This wouldn't even been worth coming to. And so throughout that experience, I was building my following and on the road. And then people kept trying to hire me. They would just ask me every time I did a conference, like, hey, can we pay you on the side? Like, we I believe in everything you just talked about, but I don't know how to do it. And no one on my team knows how to do it. So can you do it for me? And that was what our shirt said at Curaytor. We do it for you.
Yep.
Because it wasn't so much about uh believing in the tools. It was really like, oh, I crossed the chasm, like I'm in, but I don't have the time or people to execute and be happy to pay you. And so that's where Curaytor was born after 2 or 3 years of people saying they wanted to pay me to do it for them. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to start a firm. And it wasn't about software. There were, because I was so good at finding cool stuff like Playster, Contactually, listings to leads, like Base Camp. Like there were all these amazing tools out there. And so Curaytor, that's why we named the company Curaytor. We would curate
Mm.
all the best stuff, and then we would do a little bit of software and technical stuff to kind of like connect them. So this is like a super inside baseball story, but like we actually got top producer through my contacts there to integrate Market Snapshot into Follow Up Boss, which at the time was like unheard of because it's like, well, that's our rival. But it's like, yeah, but Market Snapshot's so good, you don't want to limit the audience to be just the people that have your CRM. So we were kind of wheeling and dealing behind the scenes. And throughout that process, I, met Jimmy, my co-founder, and Curaytor blew up, man. Like
Mm.
I sometimes I forget how hard it is, and especially now with Ella and Beacon and some of the new things I'm working on, it's incredibly hard to get to 1 million a month in revenue. Like
Mm-hmm.
to get to like 12 million in revenue per year, it's incredibly difficult. And we were able to do that. And we made the ink list and we got featured in Forbes. And, you know, during that process, I started writing books. And probably the most well known book is called The Conversion Code, which is basically like what we were doing for people. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, if you want us to do the stuff in the conversion code for you, we will. And yeah, man, it's been a fun journey. And you know, the way I think about like social, mobile, the cloud, like these sort of like inarguable trends that took off, I believe that AI is infinitely more important in our day-to-day lives than all of those things. So you know, you obviously have to have the internet to have social media, and you have to have phones to, you know, be connected to it all the time. But now, like all three of the startups that I'm launching, they were not possible 12 months ago, 18 months ago. Like without AI, and you mentioned Ella, like when you were working for me, how many times did the clients ask you to
Oh,
like, can you make the content that you're doing for us local?
yeah, and it was tough because you'd have to spend so much time researching and then you got to write it and then they want it in their tone and then yeah, it was hard. Like we would attempt it, but it
Yeah,
was
but it was hard to scale because
yes.
I mean, just so people know, you guys as the marketers at Curaytor had 25 clients on your roster, and you would have to create a blog post, run a Facebook ad, draft an email for 25 people per week. And that was so difficult just to like get that like okay, I'm done, you know, with my stuff for the week. But that was using like templates and evergreen content. So, you know, the truth about Zestimates, or you know, three lessons I learned by trying Open Door. You know, we tried to make the content as good as we could, but we were never able to really personalize it and localize it to what the clients wanted. And then when we did that, I don't know if you remember when we launched agency was okay, we'll do everything one of a kind, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like 5 grand a month. And even then, the girls, Jenny and Lisa, that did such a good job with that, they ended up with like 5 clients and then kind of had to tap out because they
Mm-hmm.
couldn't, you know, they couldn't do the great work they were doing at scale. So AI, man, it is a game changer for real. I'm logged in all day, every day, learning, testing, you know, trying the different platforms, trying different prompts. And it's not perfect, but man, it's really good. And it's so early, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what's so exciting for me is like buy the stock now and
Yep.
hold it for 20 years and you'll be a billionaire, right? Because this is going to revolutionize how businesses run. And I focus on marketing and sales. That's my passion. That's my background. But it's going to go, you know, way beyond those, you know, implications. I think ChatGPT, what was so obvious right out of the gates was how marketers were just like, oh my God, like this thing's writing articles that are better than mine, you
Mm-hmm.
know, in like 1 second.
And
So
it scares the shit out of you at some, but then you go, you know what? If you use the tool, you become
mhm.
stronger. So that was, a
That's
lot of people
right. You want to be
scared
a
of AI.
cyborg. You want to be a cyborg, like put your AI hat on, be the one. You know, Tony Stark doesn't have any superpowers,
Right.
right? Just the suit. But yeah, you're right. I think a lot of people freaked out. There's tons of negative AI stuff that you hear about too. Every time it's been conveyed in a movie or anywhere in media, it's always this doom and gloom that it's going to ruin everything and take over the world and be the destruction of mankind. And that's what people said about phones. That's what people
Yep.
said about the internet. That's what people said about social media. So it's another one of those moments where it's like, okay, I'm right and I know I'm right, and so I'm just going all in, not really that worried about people talking me out of it. Like I'm all in.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's a
No, it's
really fun time. And I think the practical use cases for realtors is tremendous. And the same way I think about if I had empowered you 5 or 6 years ago at Curaytor, if you had these tools, you would have been doing exactly what we're doing now at Ella. You would have been creating hyper local stuff, insert city name here, insert tone, style. Like it's really fun. Like we have a client named Susanna Murphy. I'll show one of the emails we did for her in a few minutes. And she's from Spain. And like her opening line is like, hola, and then we're working with Glenda Baker, and her email says y'all like seven
right.
times, or like, honey, trust me on this one, like, because
You've
that's
mastered
her.
her tone. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
And then even we have this guy, Quentin Starks in San Antonio, and it's like, what's up? It's your boy Quentin, the digital mayor coming to you. Like that part of it is so fascinating that you can even scale their specific vibe.
Personality. Yeah. Their
Yeah,
personality.
it's truly remarkable, because I remember, Annette, who was running my social media Curaytor, Annette Torres, she's crazy talented. She would always come to me and be like, I can't write like you. Like, I don't say boom. She's like, all of your posts say boom. And like, I don't say boom. I can't write that.
Ugh.
But that was part of it, was like, oh, the AI, and especially like if you're a prolific content creator like myself, I can give it my books. I can give it my thousands of YouTube videos, my hundreds of podcast recordings, transcriptions from every conversion club training that I do every month. Like
Yeah. For
I
people that
can
don't know,
really make it my own. Yeah.
yeah, people may not know. I might be interviewing right now with the AI video of Chris, all with the info dumped in.
Yes, here he is. Yeah, Hey Jen is people should look at Hey Jen. Jay Kinder, sharp guy, EXP, big time recruiter. He's been putting out some videos lately where it's like, hey, this is Jay's AI, and like it looks like him. It's not perfect, but it's getting there. And I think about the idea of being able to create content by writing scripts, and then your AI, like there's AIs that host podcasts and no one knew they were AIs. Like
Hmm.
it's going to be freaky good. And so that's why when I look at what I'm doing, it's like, okay, how can we use AI to make the client experience 10 times better? That's what I'm doing with Beacon. How can we use AI for better coaching and content creation? That's what's called AIRE, AIRE. That's for agents and lenders. And then how can we use AI to create hyper local personalized content as an agency? And we're focused on email and social for Ella. So it's like, just in those three examples, like coaching versus client service versus content creation, unreal, man. People should be pumped.
Oh, there's no way they're not. I mean, just from I, I'll never forget somebody showing me ChatGPT,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like I had zero fear of my job or
Mm-hmm.
like our work. I was like, oh yeah, it's game time. Like it just felt so revolutionary to see that and go
Mm-hmm.
through that. And then now you have all these other perplexity. There's so many different ones out there. I'm excited you
Mm-hmm.
kind of show the use case of how you're using them at Ella and with your other startups.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, AI is just. been an absolute game changer these last 12 months.
Hmm.
So, I mean, talk to me a little bit, Chris, about one, what kind of inspired Ella specifically. I think whenever I had a client come to us and they were wanting email newsletter, it's not something
Yeah.
we offer, and
Hmm.
and I was like, man, where is an email marketing agency
Hmm.
for real estate? And I start, and all of a sudden, boom, pops up in my feed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost like a moment of serendipity,
Dippity.
right? Yeah,
Serendipity. That's right,
yeah,
buddy.
yeah. And I'm like, whoa, okay, I gotta hit up Chris. So I hit you up. We jumped on a call. You showed it to me, and I'm like, this is perfect for any
Hmm.
agent that wants email marketing newsletters. So like, what kind of inspired that? I know you obviously saw the problem, and now you're trying to solve it. So talk to
Sure.
me about that inspiration and kind of where it's heading, where you're going with it today.
Yeah, which is so fascinating because I'm talking about something really, futuristic like AI, but then applying it to something in theory that's kind of like a digital marketing basic like email. The reality is, Austin, you know this, I know this, but a lot of people don't realize that your email list is your most valuable asset by far.
Mm-hmm.
90% of real estate agents' business comes from past clients, repeat and referral business. And unfortunately, most of the investments and most of the technology that's come out in the last decade has been for internet lead generation.
New
So,
leads.
Tiger Leads, Boomtown, Commissions Inc. And then it's kind of like, well, what about my brand? And it's like, well, that was Curaytor and that was Luxury Presence. And, these things were differentiators for sure. But email is where you convert leads into clients. And email, like there's a stat that 70% of past clients are more likely to send their agent referrals if they keep in touch with them regularly through email. Well, the issue is you got to sit down and, like you said, do some research and do some writing and put it together and like grab some graphics. And even with the AI, it's still something you have to carve out the time to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been amazed at how many real estate agents don't even have like an email marketing tool. Like they have Follow Up Boss and they have Lofty, but they don't even have like a MailChimp, or like a Flow Desk, like a tool that was built. Like I use kit.com. They don't even have an email marketing tool because they're not actually doing an email marketing newsletter. And that would be something I would give props to Curaytor for. We built a really good email marketing tool that is, more than capable of doing traditional email marketing and newsletters. What the CRMs are good for is automated follow up
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when new leads come in, and then they connect to like your IDX or whatever. So they're also managing things like listing alert emails. Well, the problem is listing alerts and autoresponders don't apply or appeal to your sphere of influence or your past clients. They're not interested in those. And so it's kind of like what we ask ourselves, what could a realtor send that would have mass appeal, that we would start and like write it for their database of the people that know them and like them and trust them, and then the leads are sort of like honored to get it too,
You're building
because
trust with the leads.
that's right. Like with the Chris list, I send an email every Tuesday at 2 p.m. It's called the Chris list. People can go to thechrislist.com to subscribe. When I bring in a new lead, I don't really do a whole lot of like action plan drips because I'm putting out something amazing and original every single week. So I might welcome them through a sequence. Hey, thanks for subscribing. Move this to your inbox so it doesn't get lost. Here's some of like the most popular tips I've ever given. And I might do like maybe one more email that says like, hey, by the way, if you do end up liking the Chris list, I have an agency called Ella. We could help you with your email marketing. Here's more about that. But after that, they're just going to get the newsletter everybody else is getting.
Every week. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And so for realtors, it's similar. It's, there are some of them are generating leads, but you'd be amazed, Austin, at how many top agents have less than 1,000 people in their database,
Mm-hmm.
but they're
Mm-hmm.
good. Like we have clients that we get 60, 70, 80% open rate. Well, it's because the dirty little secret with email marketing that nobody wants to talk about is that the number one factor in open rate is sender name. It has
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do with the subject line or the preview text or the time of day or
Who's it
the
coming
day of the
from?
week. Exactly, man. Who's it from? If I get an email from Gary V, I don't
You're
care
gonna
if it
hope
was on Saturday at fucking 2 a.m. Like, I'm going to open it. So, with a lot of these agents, they're great at what they do and their clients love them. They just didn't keep in touch through that channel. And as soon as they do, it blows up with the responses. We had a lady, Kathy Fawcett. She we so what we do, just to give people a good idea for the cadence, is you create the email newsletter, put a lot of time and effort into that. Then you spin out of that really good content for social. So you're taking the newsletter and then prompting it to like basically rewrite it in a relevant way for all the different platforms. So as an example, we might have a restaurant that we feature in the newsletter that's a burger place, and we'll go pretty deep about how great it is and the best burgers to try, and the hours and the Instagram, like do a pretty good little write up and summary. But on Facebook, that might just inspire a question that says, what's your favorite burger place in Orlando? Because that's kind of the right way to take that concept and put it out there versus LinkedIn, which is like completely different as far as the vibe and the tone, versus Twitter versus IG versus if you decide to do TikToks and reels about the stuff. So step one is like it's actually really worth investing in a really great newsletter because you can then repurpose it properly all over the web. We can typically get 25 to 30 posts for social from one good email newsletter. And then now with all the social networks, you used to have Buffer, Hootsuite, Later. You used to have like a scheduling tool. Well, now they all let you schedule natively. So in less than 20 minutes, you can go through this doc of social media stuff, copy, paste, schedule. And for a month, Monday through Friday, right? Like you've got really good stuff going out on social. And then the right hook of it, right? Because these are jabs, these are building your brand, keeping in touch, top of mind, like thank you economy, right? Like you have no idea how many people email me and just say thank you for the Chris list. It's so good. So we wanted to replicate that thought with our clients' databases. Well, we also want to make sure that, as you know, they always want to know what the ROI is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And even if we say, hey, emails, the newsletters are more about your brand and being top of mind, over a long period of time, people will cancel if they can't connect this dot to this dot of like ROI. So the other thing that we do that everyone on the call should do is throw right hooks, which are what we call conversation starters, but segment your list and send those to the people that open your newsletters.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Just opens too, right? Like not even like because you might have. Do you have links in
mhm,
these newsletters that like link to
yeah,
sites, or is there most of it all right there in the
the value is there, but there's certainly links to like learn more, go deeper, check it
call?
out.
Would
Yeah,
those be kind of hooks within it, or is it like checking it? Oh, I think
some of
you've
them
shown me
are.
some. You show me some that sometimes even link out to local publications, things
Yeah.
like that as well, right?
Well, there will be some calls to action that are a little bit more bottom of the funnel. So we might say, P.S. If you are going to sell your home soon, you can click here and grab a CMA that I can put
Okay,
together for you. Or, by the way, if you are looking to buy in this neighborhood that we just profiled, here's a link to every listing in that neighborhood.
but when it
And
comes to your conversation starters, that's going just like you're like if you opened it, you've showed engagement. You're now
Yep.
getting the conversation starter.
Correct. And it's like 2 weeks later, so it's not like right away. And it's plain text. There's no design. It just looks like you went into Gmail and wrote a quick one. So I'll give you an example. 2024 equity update. Like, hey, you know, the real estate market's been crazy. Would you like me to tell you how much equity your home gained or lost in 2024? So that's still relevant to anyone that has a home, even if it's your past client that bought 2 years ago. And so that would be like the whole message, like, hey, it takes me a little bit of time to put these together, but I'm happy to do it. It's part of the value that I provide, after the sale. Just reply and give me a thumbs up and I'll hook you up. So even those are they still have pretty mass appeal, but they're simple, short, sweet. Some of those we actually get from Listing Leads, which is Jimmy's company, and he's constantly testing, you know, obviously things that help get listings. So yeah, the way the month looks is you've got a great newsletter, you've got great content that's original and hyper local for social, and then you've got that, crystal clear ROI through replies to the conversation starter. And back to the idea that, like, even if you haven't been sending anything, you'll be fine. Kathy Fawcett, who I mentioned, 38 people replied to the
Mm.
What's Your Plan email that we did for her. And like 33 of the 38, there was some type of business opportunity associated with it: buying,
N-
selling, renting, investing.
Now you're saying she's the one that had like just 1,000 in her database, right?
Might have been like 700. Yep.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. So just by the consistency of the jabs and then,
Mm-hmm.
consistent right hooks once a month or bi-weekly, is that what you're saying you do, right?
Yeah. So we do what, like, basically for every newsletter, we do one conversation starter. So it's 24 emails a year. It's not an overwhelming number of them.
It's the
Now,
strategy behind it though. The
yeah.
jab and the hook, the jab, the hook. Yep.
Yeah, because if we know they opened and read the other one, we know that they got value from that. It's not usually it's not a normal human behavior to reply to a newsletter, because
No.
that newsletter didn't come to just you, sent to thousands of people potentially. So the conversation starter kind of just opens the door for a more direct reply from the consumer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, in marketing, you're trying to create actions and then you have to react to that
Yeah,
action and make it something. So, um,
exactly.
yeah, no, I love it, man. I mean, I don't know if you could show me some
Yeah,
examples of these emails. I think that'd be beneficial for people to see, how you design the perfect email newsletter and then talk a
sure.
little bit about the packages that you offer as well at Ella.
Yeah, so this is our client Susanna Murphy. She's a influential agent. She has a boutique brand called Alante Real Estate. She just signed up with Real Luxury, so she's making moves. And the thing that was great about Susanna is she was actually one of the very few people who were executing. And so if you're never sending anything and you never send anything, then there's obviously a huge upside to having us do it. But if you have been sending, you also know the time and effort it takes to send. So to outsource it to a good firm like us is a no-brainer for people, because they know how much time it takes. So what we do is, you can see the subject line: February's best kept South Shore and Cape Cod secrets, events, eats, and real estate. So it's not just, like, real estate's a part of these newsletters, to be clear. So her brand, and this is something I think everyone should do, is give your email newsletter a brand.
Mm-hmm.
The brand for her newsletter is called Month in Minutes. We just launched one for Judy Weiniger called Smarts and Hearts.
Mm.
Obviously, mine is the Chris List. One's called Gino's Guide. One's called the Brazelton Buzz. Like, make it feel like its own thing. And so there's a short introduction. This is always unique and one of a kind, super short. And then we say, let's dive into what's happening this month. And this section is what you would think about as like a table of contents. If you look at email newsletters like Marketing Brew, Morning Brew, The Hustle, they all follow this cadence that I'll show you. So there's things happening in February, 3 local businesses worth loving, something in the news about kids and sports in her area, our tribe, that's like a kind of a accolade that happened for her and her team, and then a listing spotlight. So if you really look at it, Austin, like the first 3 have mass appeal,
Mm-hmm.
and then the second 2 are a little bit more self-serving, a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more what she does. And then we go into each section. So it's, the headline, February happenings. We've got the graphic of one of the events that's going down. This one was the Yarmouth Carnival. So, location, date, time, tickets. We do a blurb about it, looking for a family friendly adventure this month. Enjoy live magic shows, stilt walkers, face painting, da da da. We highlighted the Orleans Farmers Market. We highlighted the Food and Wine Expo. And then it kind of ends that section. No matter how you're going to spend these weekends, these are great ones to check out. Then we go to local love, businesses we love, love, live local. That's the name of the company. The 1856 Country Store, Thatcher and Spring, right? Just featuring really cool local businesses, what they've got, why people like going there, how to get there. And by the way, these businesses love that you do this, clearly.
Right. Yep.
And part of what comes out of this is the social media content where you tag them and stuff like that too. This was in the news, a game changer for Cape Cod sports. So basically just some changes, and they're building a facility in Cape Cod. This is the R tribe, proud moment alert. Jen was top 200. Susanna was in the top 100. What this means for you as a client. And then we spotlighted one of her beautiful listings. So this is a newsletter. It has a lot of stuff, but each individual section is actually pretty tight, short and sweet. So what ends up happening is some people like the things to do. Some people like learning about new local businesses. Some people like checking out the listing. Some people are more interested in the news. And then, kind of a quick blurb. Thank you for reading this. Whether you're looking for an escape or just want to keep up with the local scene, all the best, Alante Real Estate. So that is an email newsletter that we just wrote. And then kind of like under the hood, this is me working in ChatGPT on one for Kansas City. So you can kind of see the subject line, pre-order text, preview. Here's the table of contents, the KC buzz, the big ideas. But there's a lot of massaging that's happening here. So like as an example, this is actually one of the new features from ChatGPT. So let's say I see that, there's a little blurb here, but they didn't really go very deep about the sports stuff. So I can actually now highlight this, and I can say, make these blurbs 20% longer. So this is now happening inside of ChatGPT. It's getting fairly similar to like a Google Doc. And now
Mm-hmm.
watch what it's doing. This is like Tesla self-driving. It actually goes in and it'll expand on the sections. There's a little button now when you're creating content like this on the bottom here. And it's thinking and editing. I'm not going to mess with it. But if you want to make something shorter, make something longer, try to polish something up, add a little bit of design to it, you can do all of that now inside ChatGPT. And
Mm-hmm.
then the other tools that I love using are, one is Perplexity. So Perplexity is the best tool for research. So if I say, what are 5 things to do in Lakeland, Florida,
Shouts out
between,
to Lakeland.
yeah, between February 15th and March 31st. So Perplexity is really good at sources and research. You can see they found 5 things right away. The Wood Turning Symposium, Bonnet Springs, Lake Wales Art Festival. And then what I would do is I would take that and I would go over to something like Claude, which is really good for creative writing, and say, turn this list into a section for my email newsletter.
Hmm.
And then just like paste what I got from Perplexity. And then Claude is better at like writing and creative writing. And you can see it just starts cranking it out a little bit longer form.
Love
Um,
it.
yeah. So there's different, use cases for each one. Some of them are good, bad. Some of them fail. You got to hit restart, refresh. But that's just how technology is in general. But if you start thinking about, okay, what's really in the newsletter? Local news, community developments, things to do, really cool restaurants and businesses. The research part is a big part of it. If you get a good source and a good topic, the summary is going to be really good too. And then just to give you an idea of like the prompts, I'll go under the hood here for a second. These are some of the prompts that we use. So it's not a short prompt.
Oh
Like,
no. By
yeah,
all, that's
yeah,
a
you're
big
creating
prompt.
summaries for local residents, written by realtors, broken into short sentences. Like, there's a lot that goes into these prompts. Um, this is repurposing it for social, right? So it's like repurpose the email into ready to post content for the following platforms. Like each section of the newsletter should inspire 1 to 2 posts, align the tone with the original newsletter, like provide copy that is ready to post, do not include quotation marks. Um, yeah. So that would be one thing I've learned is this is a good pro tip to kind of wrap it up here is go into these AIs not with a prompt, with the goal to create a prompt. So if you go into ChatGPT and say, hey, I need a prompt that will help me write really good tweets, what do you need from me to
Hmm.
make the prompt as good as possible? And then I'll say, ask me questions one at a time until you feel like you can get it right. And it's just a bunch of back and forth. And then by the end of it, you've got that kind of mega prompt, and then you just run it, right? So it's
Yep.
uh, using prompts to create prompts is something that I think a lot of people probably haven't wrapped their head around quite yet.
And I've even taken it to that realm where once you go through and have that big prompt, like you basically, it's learning as you're having a conversation with it. You can then,
Yep.
when you go, you know what? I think it's where it needs to be. Now you can ask it to summarize in a bigger prompt and then create a GPT that you can
Yeah.
go back to and
Yep.
use consistently.
Correct. That's exactly right.
Well, I love it, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you showing the perfect email there. Could you show off some packages? Like, what is it that you guys are offering at Ella? What's the cost of it? I know you have a few different ways that people can work with you. So let's
Yeah.
talk through those.
Sure.
And then also kind of like next steps. Like if somebody wanted to see a
Mm-hmm.
test newsletter or,
Mm-hmm.
how do they, sign up, everything like that. If you could walk us through here.
Yeah. Yeah. You just go to ellaemail.com. Ella, ELLA, email. At the very top, there's a YouTube video where I go through Ella, beginning to end. But what you can do is if you put in your email, we will actually send you an example Ella. So kind of like the one I showed for Susanna. So you get a good feel for the work that we do. And then as far as packages, we basically have 3 options, which is monthly, weekly, or biweekly. And most of the people that we work with, they should start with monthly. If you're sending monthly now, or you've never sent anything, or you've been sending really sporadically, monthly is the best place to start. But we do have a few clients where it's a weekly email newsletter. Typically, we like to ramp up to that, and you can kind of see $4.99 a month for the monthly, then it's $7.49, $12.99, and basically the price per newsletter goes down the more newsletters that we create for you. But I would just say go to ella@email.com. There's also a form at the bottom. If anybody has any questions, they can reach out to me directly.
Got it. Love it. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
that's fantastic, Chris. Man, I appreciate you sharing this. I'm excited for Ella. And man, I wish we could have talked deeper on your other two startups with is it Air
Come
and then
back to those.
Beacon.
Yes.
Yeah, man,
Yes.
because those are some great ideas. I can't wait to see everything unfold for you, man. It's a pleasure having you on, and to be able to just reconnect and be able to showcase Ella and everything you're about to do for the industry moving forward as well.
Thank you, Austin. Thanks a lot.
I appreciate it.